Alright, so I figured for this week's story time, let's have a little bit of a hopium talk because I asked Joey what he would want me to say, and he said, you know what, let's go with the hopium story. And instead of like a traditional story from the past, I'm just going to talk about what I want from Overwatch 2 because that is a game I'm excited for and it just keeps getting pushed back. And I don't think it's good to keep pushing back a title that you've announced, especially one that's been pushed back for years and just constantly keeps getting pushbacks. If getting it pushed back though means that we're going to get a stronger product, I'm all for that. But I don't know how I feel about the changes. 5v5 PvP, from what I've seen from the pros, it's just not going to work. There's only going to be a handful of heroes that work, and that's worrying, so I think all the tanks need to get changed. I'm all for one tank though, because in traditional Overwatch, tanks have the most power in any push. They're the ones that can take the most space compared to DPS, unless you're making picks. Um, what else? Oh yeah, Force 222 from roll queue. That makes it so that every team has tanks. Nobody wants to play tank though because it is also the least fun role. So basically, you don't have a lot of people playing tank well while it is on one of the most impactful roles. Because everybody wants to play either DPS or healer because most of the roster is on DPS. There's a lot of fun healers because they know how to make healing kind of fun and innovative, except if it's Brigitte because she is just too strong. I don't even play her, but I understand her power. What I'd like to see is every character not being balanced, but being on a similar power level to the where it doesn't matter who you pick, because you can be good enough with it for it to not matter. And that's just kind of not the case with Overwatch 1 right now. An alternative though to their 5v5 mode, I think that could be fun, would probably still be one tank, 3 DPS, as most of the roster is on DPS, and that is the most sought after role, and I feel like adding a third DPS would cut down on the queue times for that role since it is one of the most fun roles in the game, and 2 healers since that is the second most popular role. I definitely think a 1-3-2 format could be interesting, and I think it's something that Blizzard should at least look into. I don't know how they would balance it, but I think with 1-3-2, I think it would still warrant tanks being buffed and strong so that they can like stand up on their own 2 feet, while the people who like to play DPS get quicker queue times, as well as we're not giving up the 6v6. I just think it'd be a fun format too, since my favorite comp when we had open queue was actually 1-3-2, because I feel like 2 healers, that's enough healing to sustain. 1 tank isn't overbearing on the tanks, just controlling the game. And 3 DPS makes it so that the people who like playing DPS, which is the role with the most characters in it, get to play their favorite character. For the PvE, I'm really excited for that, and I'm hoping that the team size going into the PvE is the same team size going for PvP. So if it's 5v5 in PvP, then I hope when you play PvE missions, your team is actually a 5-man team and not 4-man like we've seen in the archives, because that would make it easier for groups of friends who play Overwatch to basically play both game modes together constantly. Because at the end of the day, a casual gamer is going to be way more impactful to a game's longevity than a professional gamer, because the pros will play regardless. There will always be pros for an esport game, which Overwatch is an esport game even if it's not the biggest. There will always be pros there playing it through the good and the bad. A casual will leave when it's bad, and when the casuals leave, that's when you lose attention. That's when you lose funding because people aren't interested. That's just what you need. You need to keep the casuals happy while keeping the game also balanced for pro play so that everyone's happy. I get that Overwatch 1 is trying to pull a Team Fortress 2 and the devs are just saying they're not going to update it with anything except cosmetics. I can't even tell the difference between the two games at this point, except that Valve has not had any sexual harassment lawsuits. They just do things differently over there. But I don't want to see another game go the way of Team Fortress 2, where the devs just ignore it, and the only thing they ever add is a scout body attached to the scout, and then change it to be Halloween exclusive. I don't want to see that. In fact, I don't even want to see that on Team Fortress 2 either, because I love that game a lot more than Overwatch, and I'm just speaking from the heart here on this stuff, because I really like these class-based shooters. I enjoy both of them, and I just don't want to see either of them really fizzle out. Team Fortress 2 has its own issues though, different from Overwatch. This is about Overwatch, which they made healing very different, but I really don't know if Overwatch has what it takes to even retain players for Overwatch 2's release. And I know this is probably Blizzard's last ditch at being relevant too in the gaming sphere, because World of Warcraft is tanking. Let's be honest, I don't really see Diablo having that much of an impact. And what's their other games? Hearthstone? That's going to be relevant, but only because it's a mobile game. Same with like Candy Crush. Call of Duty, that's more Activision, that's not Blizzard. Like Activision Blizzard is in the deepest trouble because their IPs are starting to fail. I'm just on pure hope that Overwatch 2 is the dream game that they said it was, where we have tons of replayable PvE missions that I can actually like just sink my time into. And I hope the PvP is a much more balanced experience, and Lucio gets buffed. He really needs it, because they've had support power creep.